Hi, it's Everett's Watercolors, and I'm in my studio. Today I'm going to do another recording here of another painting. And I'm going to do mountains today. It's something else I love to paint. And so I'm going to get a mountain scene and do that painting. I'm going to put it on YouTube and LinkedIn, Facebook, and you can all enjoy that. So if you join me today, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Yeah, it helps my rating. So and also when doing a video, maybe get out your piece of paper and pen and paints and paint along with me. So that's the whole idea here. So I'll be here weekly on every Thursday with another painting exercise. So let me go to my painting table and let me get started. My overhead. So today I'm going to be working on mountains. So this is a scene I picked off the internet. Took a quick shot of that. But what it is, I cropped it down just a little bit. There's too much there to see, so I cropped it down and zoomed in on this large mountain over here and the little mountains in the background. So this is kind of in the middle ground area, and the background is back here. Then I've got some a little bit of foliage here, little trees, and a little bit of ground here. Then I got the reflection in the water. So mountains, trees, a little bit of grass, and then reflection. So that's what I'm going to be painting today. Okay, so here's my design sketch. I always do a design sketch to get a lot of idea how I'm going to plan this out. And what I've done here is I've concentrated on the mountain shapes up here, the background, and here's the middle ground area here, the large mountain area. You got some trees, a little bit of middle ground grasses here, and then the reflection in the water. So that's my main shapes I'm going to be painting today. So that's my design plan. Okay, put that aside. So I've transferred that sketch now to my my painting paper, and this is Gemini 140 pound cold press archival. It measures 15 inches long and about 11 and a half inches wide. So that's about a quarter sheet of artist quality watercolor paper. 140 pounds, very good. Okay, what I'm going to do today on my paintings, I'm going to use this paints here. This is my Holbein paint. Here's my palette with all my Holbein paints. And all my supplies today, my paints and paper and brushes, are all on my website, everettwatercolors.com, on my supply page. And I'm going to use a lot. For the sky, I've got the ultramarine blue up here in the top, and a little bit of cobalt blue. That's the blues. And then I'm going to move down to the mountains. I'll be using a little bit of yellow ochre and some burnt sienna, mixed in with a little bit of blue possibly, and some yellow lemon for those trees and so on. I got some little bit of green at the bottom, green number one, and hooker's green down here at the bottom of my palette. Okay, and I've got the 3/4 inch flat brush from Holbein. It's a synthetic brush, but very nice. 3/4 inch flat. Then I've got a 1/2 inch flat, another Holbein synthetic brush. And then I've got a number 8 round brush. These are all synthetic, but they're very good. They're on my website and they're available on my supply page. Okay, and I'll be using a couple other brushes here also. My Hake's, and I'll use my dot spray bottle. This is a palette in a bottle dot sprayer. It's got water in it, but I also have paint in all the other bottles. Palette in a bottle dot sprayer, sold exclusively on everettwatercolors.com. I'll be using that to wet the palette, also wet the paper. And these are my Hake brushes. I got a large and medium size. I got a small size too. And I'm going to use that to wet the paper. So I'm going to start out here, wet the large brush. And I'm going to put a little bit of water in the sky, just a little bit, just across the top here, just to get the wet paper wet. It helps the paint flow a little nicer. And even down here at the bottom, down here, reflections here, going to get that going too also. Just a little water down here. Okay. So I'm going to just kind of put some colors on the paper. And then, so I'm going to pick up the, this is the middle size Hake. I'm going to pick up a little bit of blue up here for the sky. So I'll go across here and get that dark, nice dark blue up here in the sky. Then I'll come down, pick up a little bit of cobalt blue, and come on down and a little bit lighter. Get across the mountaintops over here. Cobalt blue down across the mountain. Okay. Pick up a little more of that nice dark blue. And then while I'm down here, also going to pick up and put a little bit of blue down here in the water. Get that started. Just the reflection down here in the water. Won't be as bright as the sky. Okay, what I'll do is I'm going to take, what I'm going to do while this is still wet up here, I'm going to take a tissue, wrap it up a little bit, and I'm going to pull out some clouds. So you make a shape, make a cloud shape with and I'm going to go ahead and press that into the paper, and I'll pick up a little bit of paint up here and make a few clouds up here in the sky. Just very, very light clouds across the mountains here. Okay, mountain across the mountaintop. Okay, and also down here in the water, in reflection. So using just a tissue wrapped up, making I call those tissue paper clouds. Okay, now let that dry. I'm going to use a blow dryer, and I haven't practiced this painting, so this is going to be all brand new. So now I dry the paint. This is my new Ranger craft tool. It's a heat tool, which is very effective. It's nice and it doesn't sound. It's not a large, heavy sound on it, so I can talk over very easily. I'll dry the paper, so I can go ahead and I touch with the back of my hand. And if it feels warm, then I know it's dry. Okay, all dry. All right, now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the flat brush, the the 3/4 inch flat brush, and I'm going to take going to mix up this yellow ochre along with a burnt sienna, and this mountain over here, I'm going to use that kind of color over here with this mountain, and I'm just going to rough it in right now with the paint I have on the brush. And get the outline of that mountain going. So I'm just going to rough in the shape here, and I can always we'll change that later with put this in here. So I used a little bit of yellow ochre and burnt sienna to get this one going. And there's some snow on the pictures there, but I'm not gonna. I might leave some white paper here just to have a little highlight. But I'm not gonna make any snow here on the mountain. Just leave it brown. This one here goes on down to the along the side. This takes over about 2/3 of the painting, so it's a large mountain. But here's the foot of the mountain down here, the base part of the mountain. And so today I really want to concentrate on mountains. And mountains are a lot of fun to paint. There are all kinds of mountains. You get nice pictures of these mountains on the internet, or you take your own pictures if you're out on a trip sometime. You got mountains in the background. You want to take some shots of those. Now I'll let that dry on its own now. Now I'll put some darker paints in it, but right now just going to get a base coat down. Now these background mountains, I'm going to add a little bit bluer color to these. So in a mountain to show that they're back behind, this is going to have a little more little more blue in the back to show that they're behind. I'm not, no, I don't follow the photograph. I'm just gonna, this is my own interpretation. But pick up a little bit of that burnt sienna. But now I got blue and brown mixed back here. Make these go further back in the background by adding a little blue to the mix. This pushes the blue colors recede, and even I can put a little bit of purple in there if I wanted to. I got a little bit of quinacridone violet here, and I'll put a little bit of that in there also, kind of gray it down. So these will definitely, now the color I have now is a duller bluish mix, so it's definitely going to put it in the background. I'll change my brush here. I'll use a smaller brush. It's like, hey, use smaller brushes to work around some of these shapes. And when I go to the palette, I'm always picking up a different color. Don't use the same colors over and over again. I pick up a different color. And come along here. Now I don't want to touch those mountains just quite yet. Keep that blue in there. So this back mountain is definitely a cooler color because it's further back behind this other mountain. Show they're in the background. And they have a crisp edge to them. It really, if you want to make them look further back, you'd have a soft edge, but I leave them crisp because they're darker mountains against the sky, and they would show up. They would show up like that with a sharp background. So I mixed a little bit of brown in with that blue, but basically it's got a cooler color there in the background. That pushes them back. This forward mountain is much brighter and lighter. It's closer. Okay. All right. Okay, so now I got at least I got the base coat of the mountains in now. Okay, now I'm going to dry that. So I'll take my blow dryer. And okay, so what I've done here, I mixed this is a lighter color of ultramarine. Burnt sienna and yellow ochre here to make this forward mountain a little brighter and lighter. And the background, I add a little bit of blue to that burnt sienna to give us a cooler and grayer, cool and gray in the background, so it's further away, it's behind, so it's got a cooler color to it. It pushes it back into the background. So adding blue to the mix always gives it a further or distance, and that has to do with the atmospheric perspective. Because as things get further away, they get duller, and they also have a hint of blue in them as they go further back into the landscape. There's one over here. What I'll do, there's also a small section over here which I'm going to put behind also. So I'm going to take that same color, that burnt sienna, mixed in with a little bit of blue, make it into a dull gray or with a brownish blue, and push this section back here back behind this mountain. Put this section back here. Okay. Okay. All right. Now I've got that dry, and yeah. Before I guess before any further, I could finish some of the mountains off and then work into the middle ground. So what I'll do, I think, what I'll do here now is I'll add some little detail to this mountain over here. So I'm gonna take a darker mix of brown, burnt sienna, a darker mix. And by adding blue, it'll also darken that up, just like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a little bit of shadow pattern back here. This mountain has a little bit of some contours to it. There's pieces. This piece of this mountain moves back and forth, different sections. So I'm going to build that in here with a shadow pattern. And making the edges of the shadow rough too, because it's rugged. It's a rugged rock up here, so there'll be edges, sharp edges, but also rugged edges. They won't be straight and nice and neat. They'll be rugged, so give the impression that there's a texture up there. And then there's another little section here that I want to put in. Another little groove right in here. There's a little section of this part of the rock comes forward. And then there's some little dark sections in here, so I'll put those in. These are grooves. There's grooves that are in these rocks that, when the rain falls down, it's got little valleys and sections in the rocks that move with the erosion of the water from the rains. This section over here is a little more in shadow on this side. The light's coming from this section here, from right to left. So this area here is lit up a little bit. Make these edges a little rougher looking. Okay. All right, gives a look, so that's fine. And then back here on this other mountain, there'll be a little more definition here. Let's see, I'll even put this little section back here even further behind. Make it darker here, so that it shows that it's behind this other ridge of mountains. And then I can pull this one. I can put this ridge here again behind this section. So putting a little bit of shadow over here on this side, just a shadow mark. This is much darker, but just to show a little darkness. Some ridges and so forth on this mountain over here. The rugged shapes, rough edges, and not too much on this one over here. Just maybe a few little areas that show little valleys and little crevices on the mountain in the rocks. Okay. All right. That kind of gives a little characters of the rocks. All right. So I got a large mountain here. a small mountain in the back, small mountains in the background, and a little mountain over here on the side over behind. Okay. Now what I'm going to do now is go ahead and start putting in some of the tree line here. And what I'm going to start here is I think I'll use a 3/4 brush. Make a little room here in my palette. And using a 3/4, I'm going to mix a little bit of green. I'll use a green out of the palette. Most of the times I mix my own, but then I never use it. There's green out of the palette, but then I'll put mix a little bit of yellow lemon in with that, make it nice and light. Then I'm going to put in some trees over here on this side. Some low-lying trees, bushes, and so forth. There'll be a bunch of foliage on this side. These will be background trees. I'll start out with this color. I start out with a base coat here, and I'll build from that. A little bit of tree line over here on this side. This comes all the way across. Now some of this will be in shadow, but right now I'm kind of just building a base coat. So these are kind of middle ground trees up at the base of the mountain, the middle ground trees. Okay, now what I'm going to do now is take that round brush. Now I'm going to take a little bit of darker color, a little bit darker green. Maybe I'll mix in a little bit of burnt sienna in there. I want to get a little darker color, a little bit of yellow ochre. And then I'm going to go ahead and put in some tree masses back in here. These are the base of the mountain. The thing about a tree line like this, you want to vary the shapes. You don't want to have them all the same level. You want to have them up and down. They're small trees, large trees, wide, narrow trees, different sizes, different shapes. Vary the color. Put a little more of that green back in there. Vary the color. A bit of green and brown mixed together, and a little bit of yellow ochre mixed in there. Give it a variety. These are probably evergreen trees back in here on the bottom of the mountain. And as they come over this section, it might be a little bit smaller. Then we go down this side to make them a little bit different. Going back, as I go back in and pick up another color. These are low-lying trees at the base of the mountain. And on this side over here, I might have some older trees over here that are a bit more developed, more mature. A little bit closer. These trees are all spread out. They also have trees a little bit more toward the middle ground, come forward a little bit. So I'm going to go back, give a little depth in the painting. Right here in the middle ground, these trees go all the way across. They go right in front of this other mountain over here. This is all middle ground foliage. A little bit greener as I come forward, so a little more defined. Okay, that's another base coat. So these really putting a base coat down. I'll go back in at the end maybe and add some more detail, but you know, just to get enough started here. Okay, so that's the middle ground trees, and I think I'll put some more, a little darker blue in, a little darker green in here on some of these. So this gives me a little variety now. Don't want them all the same value. Some are light, some are dark. And the light's hitting some of them too, so there'll be different values depending on how much light is hitting in there. Okay. Some behind, some forward. Okay. Okay, now right now in front of the trees is going to be like a meadow, which would have again another layer of green. And we'll come right down to the water line, which has got some bushes also. So this section here now is just going to be like meadow grass. It's going to be fairly rich as we come forward. And this is grass standing up and down, so I'm using vertical strokes here with the flat brush to get the idea of the texture and the type of foliage here. Just getting a base coat in there. I picked up a little bit of brown off the palette here. I'm going to vary that coat a little bit. Don't want it all to be the same. So this is like this is like the meadow area now, coming right here to the edge of the water. It'd be like a meadow with tall grass, green, next to the water. Using vertical strokes. Some of them make them darker, some are lighter, depending on the type of grass, where the sun is shining on them. Okay, now one thing I'll do, I'll put a little more yellow back in here. I want to, maybe the sun is shining in this section here. Get a yellow, make a yellow area where the sun is shining down here along this little valley. So put a little more light, putting a little more light. By painting yellow in here, I'm painting light now into the painting. A little more yellow. The sun is shining down behind this meadow area toward the base of the mountain. Okay. So this light area now is light yellow is like the meadow area where the sun's hitting that. And then coming forward is maybe a little more in shadow, might be a cloud above with showing a little bit of shadow here on the foreground. Let me work a little bit more on this grass down here. This grass is a little bit darker. It's in shadow. Tall grass, tall green grass next to the water. Using vertical strokes to indicate that this is a grass growing vertically up and down in a vertical direction. And I'm making this darker in here so that there's a contrast between that light path of light I put in there with the yellow. Over here on the edges of the painting is it's a very just a hint of the same color, not too much detail on the edges. And what I think I'll do here now. Now the paint's still wet, so what I can do now is I'm going to take my credit card. I'm just going to take this and going to just scratch in some grass. Just little vertical marks here, just to give a little hint of some highlights on the grass up and down. A little tall grass here along the edge of the water. And it gets shorter as I go back here. Okay, all right. Now along the edge of the water, I'm going to put a little bit of dark bank. So take some dark brown. That's burnt sienna mixed in with a burnt sienna. Burnt sienna mixed in with the ultramarine blue will give me a dark brown. And I'm going to put a shadow pattern underneath the edge of this, on the edge of the bank here. There's a bank of this little lake or little pond or lake that's right next to the front of the mountain here. This is the bank edge of the lake. As I go back, the bank will get a little bit smaller looking because as we go back in the perspectives, we go back into the painting here, the bank will get a little bit smaller. Then actually disappear over here on the side. Okay. All right. Now, reflection. Be very simple. Now, what I'm going to do now, I guess on the reflection, I'm going to try something here a little different. I'm going to wet the water. I'm going to wet the paper first. because I want to have a soft edge. So I'm gonna wet the paper here where I'm gonna put the color down. So by having wet on wet, I should get a soft edge. I'll take my big brush now. Now I'm going to use the same color I used up here in the beginning. From the mountain, I got reflection. Now it's not going to be as detailed as the reflection is going to have a similar color, but it's going to be less detail. Just that indication that there's something there with that same. But it's going to be a reflection, which is not going to have all the detail of that same particular area. And by having the wet paper, I'm going to have a soft edge. And the background trees will have a little more extra blue into it, a little mix. And they'll also be back here on the reflection. And I'm putting the darker color in now with the darker mountains in the background. They're being reflected into the water, but they're not as dark and not as defined as the mountain itself. They're being a reflection, and remember I wet the paper so I get a soft edge, which gives me the impression of reflection. Now I'm going to just get a little bit darker paint now, just a touch. I'm experimenting on this one now. I'm just experimenting. So I'm going to do here. I'm going to put maybe some marks here, showing a little bit of texture here in the reflection. Not texture, but just show a little bit of changes in value. Okay, don't want to overdo that. And maybe I'll get a dark brown up here to show this section up here on the mountaintop. Okay. Okay. All right. Now we'll let that dry a little bit. Now what I want to do now is take this. Let that dry. I'll let that dry. Okay. Now see if there's any little touch-ups I want to do on this now. I like pretty well what went on. I really like what happened here. I've got the mountains that I wanted to paint in, the big light one and the dark ones in the background, and look at the contrast there of showing close and far of the mountains because of the value and the colors. Colors are brighter and warmer up here in the foreground and cooler in the background, so it gives me the depth. And then by adding in the trees and the vegetation on the ground gives me the depth also. It's also brighter color. Then reflection, I'll start out with just a wet paper. And as I put those on, I want the soft edges down here because you don't want as much detail in the reflection. Just an indication that there's something in the water. Okay, just a reflection in the water. And okay, I think what I'll do, I think I'll dry. Let me give it a quick dry. Okay, that's enough. All right, I think what I'll do now. I'm going to try one more thing. I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to take the big brush, three-quarter, put a little bit of paint on it, which is burnt sienna, mixed in with a little bit of blue, just a mixture here off the palette. A little bit of blue, a little bit of brown, but just something that, and I want to make sure the brush is pretty dry, which means there's not a lot of paint in it. And I'm going to take it now, and I'm going to do a dry brush technique. I'm just going to take this and drag it down. I'm going to drag the brush down flat along the contour of these ridges. And what I'm looking for there, just a little bit of texture here on this mountain. I don't want it too smooth. And I'm going to turn this over on the other side. I got the rocks are moving or in this direction. A little more texture up there in the rocks. And I can even take some of that color and also go over here. I don't want to do, there's not much definition back here because it's so far away. But just to get the idea of something in there like that, okay? All right, and then down here in the water, I'm going to take this small brush and a little bit of blue on it, Take a little blue in this round brush. And I'm going to drag this brush across. I'm going to drag this brush across the water here to give the movement of water. Okay, so let's try this out. Got paint in the brush. To show the movement of water. To show the movement of water by putting horizontal strokes into the paint, onto the painting. You don't want to overdo it, but you just want to get an idea that the water's down and give it a little bit of shine on the water itself. Okay. Okay, let's put a mat board around this. I'll use my blue mat board. And let's see, let's put that. Oh, look at that. Isn't that pretty? It turned out real nice. Okay, there's my mountain scene. I could call it Rocky Mountains. Rocky Mountains, I love it. And you got the near and the far mountains, you got the meadow and the grass, and you got the reflection in the water. That's what I wanted to paint today. Okay, let's go back to my main camera. Hey! Well, Everett Watercolors had a good time again today. I always enjoy painting, and especially passing on information, a little bit of guidance on to you that are watching. If you like this channel, give me a like, give me a thumbs up, and subscribe, and also tell your friends about it. I'll be back again on Thursday, and what it'll be, I videotape it during the week, and then I release it on Thursday. It'll be out after the midnight, so Thursday morning you wake up will be there. Now, if you subscribe to the channel, you'll be notified of any videos on my YouTube channel and on Facebook, also on LinkedIn. So until next week, you all stay safe. I also do another one today. It'll be sometime I'll be doing a drawing with simply drawing with Everett. And on the weekends I do a short one, which is anyone can draw with one line only. So that kind of keeps me busy, and but it also keeps me interested in what I'm doing and passing on my knowledge to you that are watching. So until next week, you all stay safe and stay warm. We're going to have a snowstorm here sometime this week, so hopefully we're going to have a bunch of snow. That's what they say. They're not always right. So until next week, you all stay safe, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.